I had no clue about any of this stuff, right? And he goes, you know what? I want to connect you with some people at my firm. Again, right? Those opportunities, those like little bit of exposure, right? I was able to just capitalize on it. And I ended up obtaining an internship at PricewaterhouseCoopers national office, where it's all research and conflict resolution for the audit teams, at least, right? So I was able to learn from the firm's best senior managers, some really technical experts, and that grew my interest. Again, when I showed up to that internship, there were 3 or 4 other interns there at the time, and these kids were like, this is what I wanted to do my whole life. Right. So I'm just like, bro, like I just kind of got connected with this. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm gonna try my best. You know, if you explain it to me, I'll try my best to do it and get it done, the way you want. So I just took that on. Again, I would not say I was the absolute best at that. And I learned over time how to be a professional. That's what I really learned there. I learned, hey, how do you commit to certain tasks, right? And get it done? What is that process? Because a lot of people want to do good, right? But they might not necessarily know how to do good, right? So that's when I started to realize that I absolutely wanted to do all these things really well, but I just didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So that opportunity gave me a chance at learning how to be a professional.
Please give a warm welcome to Tunde Ogunlana. I said it right, Tunde, right?
You got it. You got it, man.
Right,
You got it.
Yeah, I was over here practicing in my head the whole time. Like, Tunde Ogunlana. I got it. Yeah. Tunde, what's up, man? Sure. How you been, bro?
I'm doing well. Thank God I'm healthy. Work is going well. Family's safe and healthy. So, no, I'm doing well. I can't complain. How about yourself? How are you doing?
You look healthy. You look very clean, brother. I'm embarrassed to come over here with a hoodie.
Well, no, I'm hopping in and out of Zoom meetings all day. Some things I gotta be super presentable for, others I can just relax. But no, thank you.
And somehow he still gets a few posts in the gym.
You know what I mean?
Don't let it fool you. My man there for 2 hours in a pop.
It was Tunde and JU got me on the shakes every day. You know what I mean? JU got me on the blueberries. Yeah, man. But let's get the podcast started. If you're familiar with Players in Transition, we love quotes, and we always start our podcast off with a quote. And that quote always caters to our guests. And the quote for today, all right, Tunde, is from Socrates.
Okay. All right.
It says, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Unpack that for us.
Wow, that's a powerful one. That's deep. That's deep. I would say, yeah, it's pretty much along the line of whatever you focus your mind on is what you will achieve, right? So if you focus your mind on battling things that are in the past that are no longer as relevant, right? You're going to be stuck in the past. However, as you go forward in life, you have to be open to adaptability. And you have to say, hey, you know what? How can I adapt and be a great servant in this space, right? How can I make things better? How can I add value? And if you focus your effort on that, you will always progress with time. That's the way I look at that quote.
Right. Same here, man. It's when I looked at that quote, I was like, yeah, let me give this one to Tunde, because and I'm gonna be honest and a little bit open right now. I look up to you. Like I said, when you came on the show, you real clean and spliffy. Like that's like the image kind of I want to get at, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know how. So when I look for it, I look at you, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to progress and become a better person at what I'm doing, and image is everything. You know what I'm saying? And I have literally a mentor for every phase of my life, even if they don't even know they're my mentor. I'm looking and constantly checking for anything that you do, or everything, bro. Like you make smart cool. You're one of the you're one of the very few people that make smart cool, and it made me want to educate myself a little bit further. So I applaud you for that. And
you know what? I'll return something to you on that. You make transparency cool. I'll give you that.
Wow.
You make transparency cool, and I think you might not realize how your transparency is helping a lot of other people. So definitely keep that in mind. Also, yourself too, Ed.
Appreciate
I
that.
don't make transparency cool. I've been cool. I've been
No,
transparent
you
since day
do.
one.
Exactly. You make it cool, man. You make it cool.
Right. Everybody has their thing that they make cool. And like I said, Tunde, that was one of the things that I got from you as a former teammate and, saying like a little brother, you know what I mean? That I looked up to you for those things. So appreciate you, my mentor.
For sure. No, for sure. No, I appreciate that. That's very meaningful words right there. I'll let you know this. Like that means a lot to me. That means a great deal to me. I try to live my life a certain way, and again, it's more so to that mantra where, hey, if you don't like something, you do something about it, right? You try to fix it.
Yep.
And no matter how difficult it is, don't run away from any problem, because the minute you start to run away from certain problems, that becomes new barriers in your life. Right. So I try to live by that mantra. I try to take a little bit from everybody I meet and interact with. And yeah, just as as impactful as I've been, I'll let you know you guys are just as impactful in my life as well.
Bro, word. Let's get in transition, man.
For sure.
First and foremost, we want to talk about your athletic career.
Okay.
How was that for you, battling injury after injury? You know what I'm saying? You was a,
Yeah.
heck of a football player, but you didn't reach the heights that you deserve to
Correct.
because of injury, or was it because of, well, I'm just going to go and do my thing somewhere else?
No, yeah. As you said, I did have a couple of injuries. I think I had two knee surgeries in college alone, and a shoulder surgery as well. So I had three surgeries in college. For me, absolutely. I always tell people, I love the sport of football. I love track and field as well. However, due to my injuries, I could not let that be my limitation as well, right? I knew there was more ways that I can, add value, right? It necessarily did not have to be in football, although some of the greatest lessons I did learn that I, incorporate into my life to this day has come from football, right? Everything from waking up early, finishing every single task, right? You just don't leave it halfway through, right? Because in football, right, you kind of learn that discipline to like do things the right way, be consistent. So that's a great lesson I've learned, right? And I've incorporated that into my life to this day. And that has propelled me into, just amazing experiences that I never would have even been able to dream of, right? Even meeting certain people that I would say, wow, like this is somebody I saw on TV when I was a kid. I can't believe I'm meeting this person right now. I can learn so much from them, but again, a lot of these lessons, despite how many injuries I went through, I kept trying to push through, and having that type of mindset where you're just relentless in everything you do, it can never steer you wrong.
Right. Yeah, man, that's big. And I always use some of my failures or my adversity to teach me something, right? Is I always use it to build something. And I feel like you kind of touched on the same thing. Like you use those adversities to kind of carry you over to your next career. Tell us about your next career after football. What was that?
Oh man, yeah. So absolutely, I'll jump into that a little bit. So when I was at Wagner, we're playing. When I got injured, I was able to go through my physical therapy. I was able to intern a little bit, right? I didn't have to be quick or anything to intern. So I was like, I showed up, and bro, it was like the weirdest like environment ever, because all the kids at those firms, right? They knew since like high school, like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to go to the number one firm, right? So it's kind of like the same thing with us playing football, right? We're all trained. We're like, hey, I want to play professional football, but they were doing this more so like mental gymnastics, right? Like they've been training themselves with it. So I showed up, right? And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do my best. Whatever happens, happens, right? And my friend Ed, he always has this great quote that like we always abide by. Is like, listen, if I get dealt with, I get dealt with, all right? So I went to my internship that way, and I said, hey, I'm going to give it my absolute best. I'm going to be open-minded. And man, I got there day one. I was like, man, why are these kids typing so fast? How do they know all of these like shortcuts? How do they know all of this? So I already knew I was at a disadvantage, right? But being at a disadvantage never scared me, because I knew I can outwork just about anyone, right? And with that, what I did was, hey, I went in there, you know, I felt bad, like I was not as good, whatever, but I was not going to let that limit me. And I just said, hey, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to figure out, how do I get better? And like you said, right, everything, you start building little blocks, and next thing you know, you kind of become the go-to guy for something, right? Right. But again, you put yourself out there, and whatever happens, if you get dealt with, you get dealt with, and you come back for more.
How did you attain that internship, right? Because it's like you did this. Did you do this in your senior year, or was it fresh out?
Okay.
And because I know as an athlete, it could be tough to get an internship. So how did you get the internship? And I think you've been a little humble. Where was this internship at? If you can tell. I don't know if you can, but.
No, yeah, for sure. I would say it probably started more so my sophomore year. So I guess I can even take a further step back and say, all right, so I'm Nigerian, right? You grew up in a typical Nigerian family. The parents are like, hey, this is what you're going to do, right? You're going to college. It's not for you to just have fun. You better go learn some stuff there, right? So my parents are like, okay, what do you want to do? Initially, when I went into college, I wanted to become a doctor, right? And then they had me take this organic chemistry class. I was like, bro, that ain't it. Yeah, I'm good on that. I was like, listen, man, these shapes and these letters and numbers, I was like, I don't know about this. I'll mess around and write the wrong formula down. But what I realized though was I had a really good math teacher. All right. So throughout high school, I always thought like, hey, I'm okay in math. I'm just not that good. It's something I'm okay with. But when I got to Wagner, I had a great math teacher there. And once they explained some of the concepts to me, I was able to pick up on it really quick and run away with it. And that led to my interest in financial service and, just finance and economics and accounting, things along that line, right? Because I started to understand how the world works from a numerical perspective a little bit better, right? So it's a little bit more quantitative. And I realized I had, a natural gift in that a little bit. And from there, I took a couple of classes and I did well in those classes. And it became one of those things where Coach Hamline heard about it and he connected me with the school president at the time. And the school president was the head of the SEC group, Securities Exchange Commission group at PricewaterhouseCoopers at the time. And, he sat me down, we spoke. I had no clue about any of this stuff, right? And he goes, you know what? I want to connect you with some people at my firm. Again, I'm just like a kid that, thought I was having fun with sports. I was doing what I had to do in class. And again, right, those opportunities, those little bit of exposure, right? I was able to just capitalize on it. And I ended up obtaining an internship at PricewaterhouseCoopers national office, where it's all research and conflict resolution for the audit teams, at least, right? So I was able to learn from the firm's best senior managers, some really technical experts, and that grew my interest. Again, when I showed up to that internship, there were 3 or 4 other interns there at the time. And these kids were like, this is what I wanted to do my whole life, right? So for them, this is they're like, this is like their holy grail almost, right? I'm just like, bro, I just kind of got connected with this. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm going to try my best. If you explain it to me, I'll try my best to do it and get it done, the way you want. So I just took that on. Again, I would not say I was the absolute best at that. And I learned over time how to be a professional. That's what I really learned there. I learned, hey, how do you commit to certain tasks, right? And get it done? What is that process? Because a lot of people want to do good, right? But they might not necessarily know how to do good, right? So that's when I started to realize that I absolutely wanted to do all these things really well, but I just didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So that opportunity gave me a chance at learning how to be a professional. And at the end of that internship, it was a year-long internship. So this also when I started to get hurt. So I was able to go to my internship for a couple of hours, and I'd have to drive from Staten Island all the way to New Jersey, do my internship, come back, try to make it in time for practice, watch practice, then go back to class at night. And, you're staying up late doing all these assignments, or you're in the library the whole time, right? So I gained an extremely valuable experience through that internship process. And that's when I realized there's nothing that is too hard for me to do. That's when I really realized it, right? Because when you're in sports, right, you can will yourself through things, right? But now it's a different type of competition, right? Now you're learning things all over again. You're almost like your first year playing football again, right? So I put myself in that space. And at the end, they gave me a full-time offer, and I was still shocked. I was like, hey, listen, man, are you guys sure you want me to come work for you full-time? I'm still trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah. It's funny that you talked about that transition, because that's something that I kind of struggle with. It's like with football, I was talking to my wife earlier. I was like, with football, I'm used to physical, like real hard
Yeah.
work. Like I can will myself, like you said, will myself through that. But now with businesses and certain things that
Yeah.
we're doing with the podcast and other, ventures that Ed and I are, teaming together with, it's like, man, it's not hard, but it's like hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
I
a
know
lot
what you
of
mean.
hard. Like I'm used to hard work, but this is a
Yep.
different type of hard work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like the writing, like it's so much information that you need to attain
Oh.
before you know what I'm saying, do the business and do, the all of the things that he and I are going to be doing, with this podcast. So it's like, man, like I'm glad I wasn't the only one that felt that way.
Hell no, yeah, not at all. And you know what else too? I would say this. I had a really great mentor, and he's still one of my mentors to this day. This guy, his name is Jeff Andrews. He's in pretty senior management at Walmart right now. But he took me under his wing, and I'm very grateful for him. Because he was a former athlete also. He was a swimmer at UConn. So he understood where I was coming from a little bit, right? And he's like, listen, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, right? You're great in sports and you could be great at this also, right? You just need to learn the foundations and the basics and work your way through it, right? It's not easy by all means, right? It was not easy at all. However, it's something that you can learn. And again, I think anybody can do anything they're willing to put their mind to, right? Similar to the quote you started this with, right? If you focus consistently on the past, right, how are you going to progress, right? What you need to do is focus on the future.
Right. It's a lot of tedious work, man. But
oh God, yeah.
Are you still in accounting or what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I'm more on the operational risk side within the asset management group at Goldman Sachs right now. Yeah, so I cover different desks for the firm. I cover our emerging market debt desk, our quantitative investment strategies, some of our BDCs as well. Again, I never thought in my it's a business development company.
Right.
So they pretty much invest in middle market type companies that have revenues of X amount, right? And yeah, never in my wildest dream would I have believe that this is something that I would be doing, right? Especially at a firm like Goldman, right? And now it's really weird because the younger students, they'll reach out to me. How do you do this? Like this, I'm like, I was in your shoes not too long ago.
Literally.
Trust me, it's a process. It's literally a process. And, if you get so caught up in, hey, this thing is so difficult, I'm never going to get to the end, right? You might as well just cancel yourself out of it. What you really want to do is break it down into little pieces. Like you said before, Dom, right? Hey, little pieces, you build them on top of each other because in finance and economics, accounting, all these concepts, they build on each other. That's how it really works.
Everything's a puzzle.
But one thing too that I think was big for you, Tunde, that you mentioned, and I want to make sure it doesn't go on without getting some type of emphasis. You said you got that recommendation from Coach Hamline. Coach Hamline is very, very connected, but whether your coach is Coach Hamline, who's in the Hall of Fame, or somebody who just started yesterday, it's because you were the person you were, not only on campus, but on the team, but also on campus and in the community. So you had that good reputation met with the preparation in the classroom. And I think that's something too that you can't overlook. Ever since I met you when I transferred in, we never had an issue, ever.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we ever, I mean, we've disagreed, but as friends, cordially.
Correct.
It wasn't an argument, it was never an issue. You see what I'm saying? But that's because it's the way you carried yourself. And I think everybody that knows you can say that. So I think that's a big testament to it too. I mean, you definitely done the education, but you also carried yourself a certain way as well. So I think they need to understand that too. You can't just be in the books and be a butthole. You gotta,
no. Yeah, no, you're right. I try to do that. I try my best to see things from both sides, right? Because if you get to that position where you think you know it all, right? That's the minute you start to regress and fall, right? So it's almost like no matter how good or smart you think you are in something, you almost have to be childlike when people are explaining things to you, right? And be able to absorb it and really understand where they're coming from, right? Because then you can have an honest dialogue without any guard up, right? You can say, okay, what are you really feeling? What are you thinking? Let me see it from your perspective, right? And whether if it's at, at Wagner where, I could have teammates that are both on the left or on the right, but let me understand why this person feels this way, right? Because they can't be crazy. Everybody can't be crazy, right? So let me really try to understand this. And, by me trying to understand, maybe I have some takeaways from there that's going to like shape how I view things in the future now. But again, it comes down to respect, right? You have to respect each other to, in order to do that.
Yeah. Right. Biggest thing was taking advantage of that opportunity, right? Because you could have went into that internship and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This ain't for me. You know what I'm saying? But the challenge and the opportunity, carried you to where you are today, and which is phenomenal. And now you have kids asking, students asking, how did you do it? They don't see that process. And that's what they need to understand. They just see where you are. And that's like the quote that we, have in our other podcast. It was like Dawn Staley said something like, people see the success, but they don't see what it took to get there. And that's what they need more so than anything is what it took to get there. It may look good now, but what it took, it looks so good.
They didn't see the days at the front desk of Spiro with the books. While everybody else coming in, he, ha, ha, and you putting in hours. You don't forget, man, this thing is big.
I'm telling you, you want to see what that process looks like right now? This is what that process looks like right now, still to this day, man. That's what the process looks like. Again, it's a lot of it, like you said, people, they only see the end game, right? And you can never focus on just that end game. You have to be very detailed in your process. And, Dom, you said it, it can be tedious, but listen, if you have something you're passionate about, an idea, and you want to pursue it, you don't care how tedious that is, right? You're going to accept that and say, okay, this is not going to deter me from getting to where I need to be.
Right. That's that willpower, man.
Oh, man.
Indeed.
Powerful stuff.
It is. So talk more to us about your post-college transition. I know you said you're currently working there now, but have you done any, post-college education, anything of that nature? Talk to us.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess I'll even take it one step further, and let me know if I'm taking too long or anything like that. So I started my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I went into their transaction services group where, I'm working different types of capital market transactions. So, mergers and acquisitions, divestitures, reemergence from bankruptcy. So I'm learning all these cool things. And like playing sports, I love Nike. Like Nike became one of my clients, right? So then I really saw what Nike was, right? It's not just like a brand, right? This is a real company, and like, how do they operate? How do they generate revenue and profits and things like that, right? How do they manage like their relationships with their factories and manufacturing and things along that line? So I really understood what Nike was, right? So I was like, man, this is crazy. I never would have gotten this experience, because most people would just look at Nike as, oh, it's just Nike, right? Or Under Armour is just Under Armour. So I was able to get that valuable experience. And then from there, I was able to transition my career, into more of like the headhunting for the private equity and hedge fund space. I enjoyed it, but not as much as I thought I would. I thought I was a people person. I think I am to a degree, but I think I'm more analytical and strategic by nature. So I decided to transition back into my current role, which is where I'm at now at Goldman Sachs. And again, it's what I realized, like most of my career, it's just problem solving. That's what I really enjoy. I like to solve problems, right? And the reason I like to solve problems is I want to make sure nothing is left out. Right. And having that mind, that thought in my mind was, hey, why are there certain problems in our society, right? And that led me down this path where I'm doing a ton of reading, understanding how society was structured. Why is America's governance system structured this way? Why are other countries structured this way? Which one is better? Which one is worse, right? So I read a ton of like really good reads. I spoke with a bunch of different people as well. I actually ended up speaking with Pat O'Connor, who's at Harvard Law School now. You guys should get him on your podcast. He's doing something really amazing. So when I told him I was trying to, change the education policy in America, Pat was actually a teacher at the time, and we had a really great dialogue. Again, I like to get people's input, especially people that are doing the work, right? so that shaped my thought a little bit. You know, I combined the information he gave me with everything I was reading and researching, and yeah, I ended up applying to a couple of different graduate programs. So I applied to Harvard, Columbia, Brown, Johns Hopkins, and Princeton, I believe. But so I ended up getting into every program except for Harvard, right? And I was like, man, these programs are expensive. Like, this is crazy, right? But this leads me down to this whole other path about education that I have. But again, so I ended up accepting Johns Hopkins, and yeah, that's where I currently am. I'm studying public policy right now. I think I gear a little bit more towards economic policy, but again, yeah, it's a space that I'm in now. I'm really enjoying it. So I work full time at Goldman. I do this at grad school, you know, in the evenings.
That's major, bro. Talk to us about the your vision for that. Why did you go back to school for that instead of,
Okay.
you know, furthering in accounting?
Yeah, no, I would say for me, so my grandfather was a headmaster at a private school,
Mm.
right, in Nigeria. So like education is something that's always been big in my family. And when I graduated Wagner, I was like, man, I'm never going back to school. I'm done with this, right? But then you get to a position in life where it's like, hey, how can I really make an impact in society? How can I make things better? Right. And you want to be very honest and, you know, very clear with yourself about it, because some people say, hey, I want to do good. So the best way I can do it is to donate money. Absolutely. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Right. But for me, it was more so, how can I actually like create something that will directly impact the lives of many, right? And that's when I understood it. Um, a lot of this is done through policy work, right? That's literally the framework around our society. It's policies, right? So I said, okay, let me understand how these policies work. Like who puts these policies together, who signs off on them, you know, when they're putting these things together, what are they considering? Because I feel like they're not considering everybody. Again, if I mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, right, I want to make sure you're considering people in these policies, right? And sometimes, right, it's because you might think you're doing something good, but it might be taking you to a very bad place, right? So I think some of these policies, the way they were created, right, primarily, I mean, for example, something like, you know, education or the student loan crisis, right? It was a good idea, but the way they created it just did not work, right? And we can clearly see that, right? So you say, hey, we want more people to go to college, right? We want more people to have access to college. Okay, so you know what we'll do? We'll give loans out to all these students, right? It makes sense, an idea, right? But then you're going to guarantee those loans. So the college, on the other hand, what they're going to do then is say, hey, we're going to increase the cost of education because we know the loan is guaranteed and we're going to get paid out on it.
Mm.
So now essentially what you create is a market for college to make money off these students, right? So it sounded like a good idea. So now you're seeing tuition like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. I'm like, bro, like it does not cost you $80,000 to teach me something, especially when you can do the thing virtually, right? Like, so again, a policy that started out as a good idea turned into something bad because some of these students are now leaving college with, you know, $200,000 in debt, and then they're going into a career where, you know, the income that they're receiving after tax is not even enough to cover the interest or the principal on that loan, right? So then they're living in a, you know, in a debt like ridden like life, right? And what do you know about that? That's how you actually control people's behavior. You know, it then stops them from taking on their true passion or risks that could be beneficial to them, right? So again, that was just an idea of a policy where it sounded good, but the actuality of it became something bad because now we have this $1 trillion student loan bubble now. And you know, you have the president trying to cancel the loans. The bank is like, hey, listen, man, I gave you the loan. You better pay me back, right? So I'm like, if you cancel this, like, what does that mean for them? Are they going to get their cash? Or are you going to give them a tax write-off on? Like, how does this work, right? So there's like different things that we have to start to consider now. But again, it's the idea that you created a policy that, you know, it sounded like a good idea, but the actuality of it was just extremely detrimental to the people that were supposed to be beneficiaries of this policy.
Right. Yeah. That's
Tunde,
big.
quick question for you. With
Yep.
the graduate school, because you sound very well thought out with that, right? And
Okay.
you mentioned that it's like you get out, you didn't want to go back. Do you think that it's best for people to wait a little time before they go to grad school so that they can build up that passion, or do you think it's something that they should do right out?
Mhm. My my honest thought on that is definitely take your time, right? Because you don't want to go into a program that, you know, does not add any value to your life, right? Does it put you in line? Does it put you in a space that you'll be able to pursue, you know, your passion, right? So again, when you're young, you think you know a lot, right? Because we all were young, right? We're all like 21 before 22, right? So you think you know everything. And some people, they're more advanced at that age than others, right? By all means. So this is not applicable to every single person. But for the majority of people, I don't think it's a good idea to pursue that immediately as you graduate, right? Take some time. Like I traveled, right? So I've been to 42 out of 50 states. I've traveled around the world a little bit. So I've gained different perspectives, right? I've seen how the world works, right? So I've been to Thailand, been to China, been parts of Africa, like, you know, parts of Europe. So I really was able to say, hey, this is how I honestly feel, right? And this is what I want to pursue at some point in my life. So I definitely think people should take that time. I mean, other people probably traveled earlier than I did, right? Or whatever. So again, I think it's always good to have perspective before you make big decisions and big commitments like that.
No, I think I agree. The reason why I asked, just because I mean, as I mentioned before in the podcast, y'all know I definitely did extended education. I went to grad school twice, master's in law school, but I did them all consecutively.
Wow.
So I was in school from pre-K to graduating law school. And
Man.
I say that because it's like you have such an extensive knowledge, and it's like, no, I mean, I can see and talk too about some things, but like I feel more passion in yours. But that's because you went back to school with a purpose. Whereas for me, it was just like I'm gonna continue going to school. And while graduate school is nice and it's definitely afforded me the opportunity I have, I could definitely put a little more behind it. And I think that passion comes from getting out there, getting your feet wet a little bit, seeing some things that make you tick, and then thus applying that education and that because it's going to be about 100K at least.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're gonna
Over
ask
that
for all of
2 3 year
that.
span. Oh yeah. So applying that to something that you're actually passionate about and can actually apply to. And I was just saying that for someone that's in their transition, right? Because they see someone like you, they see someone like us, and they need to know when's the right time to go to school because some people will be presented with that opportunity immediately. And I just want them to help get a better educated understanding on when to make that decision.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
The education, it's either gonna be I'm either gonna do self-education or I ain't doing it at all. You know, I'm gonna continue to read a book, but I ain't going back to school.
No, man.
I'm
And
sorry,
again,
it's over for
Not
that.
everybody has to. You know what I mean?
no,
And that's the bigger
I
thing.
agree.
And that's why I think you should definitely wait because when you come out, regardless of whether you had a scholarship or you went for free and your parents paid for it, that's a lot of money to take on at 22, 23. You're not thinking when you're
Yeah.
20, 29 trying to buy a house. They not going to tell you, oh, them loans, baby. Like, it's real. So
yeah.
it's just, and these are the conversations people don't have. That's why I put it in there a little bit because I saw that and I was like, a lot of people are going to see the nice suit, my man clean, the nice glasses, speak well, but they're not going to see that he waited, like you said, and traveled and experienced whatever you experienced in that time before you got to this place. So I just want people to get a more holistic view on it.
No, yeah. And again, I want to piggyback off a point that you just brought up there, right? I don't want to put out this narrative that, you know, everybody should go to college, right? I don't think
Right.
that is the, you know, end all be all for everyone. I think, and this is also one of my initial thoughts on education was, hey, first of all, and you guys let me know if this sounds crazy, right? So I said to myself, I think high school, right, should be in 2 terms, right? You should finish in the 10th grade, right? And have an initial break where you're allowed to try and almost take on the internship apprenticeship model for a year where you try 4 different careers, right? And at the end, you know, for 3 months each, right? So that 1 year period, every 3 months, you go into a different career that you're interested in, right? So you list out 4 careers you're interested in. The first 3 months, next three, and at the end of each one, you write a paper about your experience and whether it's something you're, you know, interested in that you want to pursue or you want to continue, all right? And then you come back for essentially your senior year, your 12th grade year now, right? And then you can have a more effective preparation as to whether or not you need to go to college, right? Because what you're going to do then is tell the kids like, hey, if you want to go be a coder or, you know, electrician or plumber or whatever, you don't need to go saddle yourself with $80,000, $90,000 in debt to do that, right? Somebody could bring you on as an apprenticeship, as an apprentice, right? You can go to trade school. You don't have to take out the $90,000, $100,000 debt anymore, right? And now you're in a much better position in 12 to 18 months, and you're making money for yourself, and you can start your own company and pursue this, right? Because if you then decide, hey, 2 years later, no, I really want to go study medicine or whatever, and then you need to go to college. So now you've gained that same experience like you mentioned, but you gained it at an earlier age now, right? And instead of that, you've almost reversed like that debt cycle, because somebody might do that and say, hey, you know, I don't need to go to college. I enjoy my career as an electrician and, you know, or a carpenter or something like that, right? And that's what they want to pursue. Great. They never had to take out that debt. Now they're in a better position to benefit society overall, right? Because now they're generating income, they're paying taxes on that income. So whether it's state or federal taxation, they're getting their revenue from that person at a much earlier age, right?
Right.
And now, like, you're like actually benefiting society overall, right? But if you decide, hey, I do want to go to college, right? Or, you know, after your 4 intern apprenticeships, right? You decide, hey, I want to be a doctor. Okay, you got to go to college. Nobody's going to tell you you can be a doctor without going to college, right? Like, listen, you better go study this chemistry, all right? But again, I think that's a much better way, because in the 11th grade, you kind of know what you're interested in. You have a feel for it, right? But if you're telling people they should like figure out what they're interested in, you know, as a junior in college when they've already are $50,000 in debt, right? They're like, listen, man, I might as well just finish this thing out, right? Or even after college, right? When you graduate and you're still not sure what you want to do yet. I'm like, wait, you're unsure what you want to do, and now you're in the hole 100K, right? Why don't you just make this decision much earlier in the 11th grade before you get in debt? And now you can truly pursue something that you're passionate about, right? So I think that will also help society a lot better.
That's a smart thing to do.
Very smart. Because I think the idea of everybody going to school is outdated, just as outdated as shoebox money. Putting your money in the shoebox isn't as useful as it used to be.
Man,
you gotta reinvest it. You gotta buy something. You gotta keep making money work for you. So it's just certain things. And again, like we said, we're not saying don't go to school, because you definitely need to go to school for something. But not everybody needs to go. Just being correct.
So Tunde, man, at this point in the show, we call this the extra point, right?
Okay.
With the extra point, you know, we allow for you to kind of take over the show as the host. You could ask us questions, or you could bring up a topic or talk about something that you didn't talk about, or whatever it is that you want to do at this point is your time, bro. So Tunde, the show, man.
Oh yeah. Dom, you know, I'll start with you as you just finished there. My big question for you would be, why were you so confident in your transparency, even being able to come to a place like Wagner and say, hey, you know, I do poetry. Like, bro, you're a running back. You're supposed to be tough and all. Like, I do poetry. Like, how are you so confident in that, right? What made you so confident? What made you, you know, be in a position to actually like stand out and speak on it, especially in an environment where it's like uber masculine, right? And people could make fun of you or something like that, right? What gave you your confidence for that?
To be quite honest with you, I didn't know that it was transparency. I didn't know how to identify it, because when I was younger, in like the 6th grade in middle school, I like to dress up. I like to clean up. I had braids, you know, my mom bought me all the nice clothes. My mom and dad bought me all the nice clothes, and I loved it. But I had people who would call me a pretty boy, and I hated that. And you know what I'm saying? And it was like, oh, he's too clean. I was too clean. So I kind of lost myself. Yeah, seriously, bro. I kind of lost myself after those comments. And I was like, nah, I'm not about to do this to me based off of what someone else said, because they can't afford what I have. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, to avoid a little background noise, somebody got a motorcycle. But like I said, like to avoid, you know, traumatizing myself with words that someone else said, I kind of digressed. And then I was like, nah, I like being chill now. I like not being in the middle of the scene, but I'm going to be me regardless. And what I'm going to do from here on out, if you don't like it, thanks for letting me know. You're over there. You're the people I don't want to be around. So I'm okay with telling you, yo, this is what I like. You clown me, okay, cool. You're not my friend. Oh, you like it? We in the same circle. So it was easy for me to be transparent, and still to this day, because it allows for me to identify who people are, right? If I tell you something and your reaction is going to tell me exactly who you are. So I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of
wow,
why
that's deep.
Yeah. I mean, I have a whole book about that, like my lifestyle and how people's words affected me. You know what I mean?
Man.
So that transparency was just practice for my mental state.
So you were mentally prepared by the time you got to Wagner to, you were comfortable in your own skin almost, right? To be who you are.
Yeah.
That's big. I guess for you, Ed, my question will probably be very similar to that, because you also were very, you'd speak your mind. Like I felt like you had this natural confidence as well, right? And most people do not have this type of confidence that you and Dom would naturally have at that age, right? It's something that, for me, I would say I was always confident in things that I knew, right? And things I did not know, I would always like try to be open-minded, right? I was not as confident in it, so at least let me try to learn it, so then I can, gain an expertise and, be more confident in it. But naturally, the way you both spoke and the way people respected you both, right? I think you guys had this uber natural confidence that you just lived your life with. Like, where did that come from you?
For me, what I was saying, I've seen and done a lot with a lot of older and younger people. So like, it wasn't more so like I know I'm right. It's almost like you said something early in the situation. I try to look at both sides of the situation. I look at my side and their side. And when you do that, you now make a third side, which is the middle. So I try to see everything from the middle. So I'm someone that can give. I'll literally be the first one to say what I did wrong. But that's because now I can see what happened. So when I do that, it's like, no, I'm speaking from a place where I believe I'm about 90% right. I'm still human, so I'm not infallible. But I've looked at both sides of the situation as coin, and like I really feel that when you sit back and look at this situation in the future, you probably gonna see what I was saying too. So it was more so just speaking with that conviction, because it was a long time where I let people tell me something and it led me astray. When it was like, yo, I said that originally. Or be like, man, I've been saying that. But a lot of people like, nah, man, you don't know what you're talking about, this, that, and the fourth. And then it comes back. And then everybody on the back end, oh, I'm sorry, you were right. But it's like mentally, I'm already regressed. So at that point, I'm like, look, I'm going to say what I say. If I'm right, I'm going to be right. If I'm wrong, like you said, if I get got, I get got. But I'm going to say it with confidence, because the other thing that someone told me is, if you don't believe in you, who else will? If you don't believe in what you're saying, who else will? So I'm not going to tell you the sky is purple, but I'm going to make sure I tell you it's a light color blue. You know what I'm saying?
That is
like,
true. That is true.
Like, being honest, that's where it comes from, man. And then just building on that.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep also, man. Yeah, because you both were always like very confident, in just everything you did, right? Like, hey, this is exactly what I'm going to do. This is what I said I'm going to do, and I'm going to come here and do it, right? If I remember, even at practice, Dom was like, hey, I'm going to come back better than ever. I was like, man, this guy's already like super confident about this, So I always wanted that, because at times when I'm unsure of things, right, it brings down my level of confidence. And I was like, man, I have to do a better job maintaining this level of confidence, even when things go off like the path a little bit, just sticking to it, right? And for me, again, like the transparency that both of you had, it definitely helped me as well.
Yeah, it all goes back to what you believe. You know what I mean? So what you believe in is what you're going to be most confident in. And I always, if I said it, I believed it. I spoke it in my mind consistently. Like I said, before Tunde, when we were doing the thing with Wagner, it was like I would talk to myself, about myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, that dude is nice, yo. He going to the NFL. He gonna be somebody. And I'm talking about me.
Wow.
And, like, I would literally make up these scenarios in my head and say, like, they said you was weak, yo. They said you wasn't gonna come back strong. They said you was gonna suck. We Wagner need to find a new running back. So I was like, oh, they said that? This is a conversation with myself. This is a conversation with myself, right? So I'm like, oh, they said that? I bet. And that's when I would come to y'all. I'm like, I'm coming back better than ever. And y'all, none of y'all said anything to me.
I was like, man, he said he's gonna do it, so I guess
I made up in my mind. I had already made up in my mind that that's what y'all was saying behind my back. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna come back. And it just gave me motivation to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, now I got the upper hand. Now I'm gonna do it. Now I have the motivation and the inspiration to go harder because I have an incentive to prove everybody wrong.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Man, that's some powerful stuff right there. I would say, some of my other questions to you two will be, what is your vision for players in transition for both of you, right? What's the vision? What's the end goal to it, right? And how are you making sure that the process to achieve that end goal is something that it's how can I say that it's something that you can execute on along the way?
Originally, this was a dream of mine. Honestly, when I left high school, I didn't know what a GPA was, right? So I always said that when I make it, I'm going to go back and help myself. I want to help somebody that was in my position that don't know what they don't know, right? And it's kind of my fault, but it's like no one really pressed that upon me to learn and educate myself on it. I didn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? So I said, I want to do things with my life and my career to help the old me and to help people in my position and to help someone become the next Tunde. You right? So with players in transition, we want to help student athletes, specifically. Like we can help everybody, but no, we want to help the student athletes like ourselves get those internships and get those opportunities that some of those students that you saw, they had already been accustomed to prior to y'all doing the internship together because they had the opportunity. And that's what players in transition is just creating that opportunity for athletes that's missing, right? And we're the connection. We're the Walt Hamline, like Walt.
Yes.
We want to be that to multiple players around the United States and in colleges.
Wow. No, that's an amazing vision, and goal. Like I respect that. If there's any way I can help, you all can always reach out to me, call me, email me, text me. It doesn't matter. But no, please let me know if there's any way I can support.
Oh, for sure. Appreciate that.
Definitely, man. I mean, this is big right here. You served a lot of insight, man. You definitely given a lot of insight for our listeners and us too, as always, man. You've always a big help.
I'll say one other thing, right? And I guess this is not really a question. It's just something that I always want to make sure that I leave people with, right? We're at a very interesting point in the country, and I think the past year has separated a lot of like friends and families, not just physically due to COVID, right? But I think more politically, right? And I think we should try to do a better job in finding that middle ground and being very honest on both sides. All right. So I would say if there's any way that we can achieve that, I think we'll be in a much better place in society, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, right? We want to create a better future. That's essentially what we all want.
Right. So, well, man, that's another episode of the Players in Transition podcast, man. Tunde, thank you so much, bro. You don't know how much you impacted us. And I hope that this podcast actually impacts other people.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah. Coach Don.
Coach Ed.
We out of here. Peace.
All right. Later, y'all.